Today, I want to explore a story that delves deep into the complexities of love, betrayal, and the shattering of dreams. It is a tale that begins with two people in love, striving to build a family together, only to find themselves caught in a web of profound emotional turmoil. Meet David, a 40-year-old architect with a deep passion for design and a firm dedication to his career. His wife, Clara, an ambitious 35-year-old aspiring interior designer, has always envisioned a family, one filled with laughter and the joy that children bring. Their journey together started as a beautiful romance, blossoming over 4 years of love and shared dreams. However, the two had recently found themselves trudging through a difficult path, one marked by the trying endeavors of conception. For the past 2 years, Clara has been increasingly vocal about her aspirations for motherhood. Initially, David felt ambivalent about becoming a parent. His focus was squarely on his thriving career. Yet as he witnessed Clara's infectious excitement and discussions about nursery designs and baby names, he began to warm to the idea. Slowly, David allowed himself to embrace this new chapter. But as months turned into years, the arduous efforts of trying to conceive began to take their toll. What started as hopeful anticipation mutated into strain. Every failed attempt chipped away at the foundation of their once solid relationship. Clara's mood swings were increasingly fueled by her unfulfilled ambitions and societal pressures, which often manifested in demanding ways. David felt himself drifting away, trapped in the role of a provider, feeling more like a distant shadow in their shared home rather than an equal partner. His dreams of fatherhood began to eclipse under a cloud of despair, unable to break free from the emotional weight weighing them down. The turning point arrived when David, sensing the toll it was taking on their relationship and on Clara's mental health, decided to undergo fertility testing. The dread he felt was palpable as he prepared for the inevitable result. His heart raced as the doctor delivered the shattering news. He was definitively sterile. In that moment, the dreams of fatherhood that had begun to awaken inside him withered into nothingness, replaced by a gnawing sensation of fear and sadness. How would he tell Clara? Would her emotional state only amplify her already heightened reactions? David wrestled with this daunting reality, feeling crushed beneath the weight of the truth. Weeks passed, and David struggled with his diagnosis, haunted by thoughts of how he would break this devastating news to Clara. He began to anticipate her reaction. Anger, despair, denial. Yet life threw another curveball. Just days after receiving his diagnosis, David found himself at an otherwise ordinary family dinner with Clara's relatives. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and love when suddenly, Clara took center stage. With an infectious smile on her face, she proclaimed that she was pregnant. The air shifted instantly, as all heads turned towards her, basking in the glow of the moment she described as a miracle. David's heart dropped into his stomach as disbelief washed over him like a cold wave. It felt surreal. How could this be? The flood of emotions quickly turned into suspicion that clashed violently with the facade of joy he desperately tried to maintain. As applause erupted around them, David's mind raced to reconcile Clara's announcement with a reality he had just absorbed just a week prior. He suppressed his shock, managing to feign enthusiasm, but internally he was unraveling. The little logical piece of his mind screamed for clarity. How was this possible? After all their struggles, David could not shake the impending sense of dread. He knew with certainty that he needed to clarify things. Unsure of what would come of this, he secretly scheduled a retest at a separate clinic, fully aware that it could either shatter his suspicions or confirm his darkest fears. David's expectation turned into reality when the retest confirmed his sterility unequivocally. In that moment, suspicion morphed into irrevocable truth. Clara was unfaithful. The revelation blazed through him like a wildfire, igniting dry brush, shocking and consuming every ounce of hope he had slowly cultivated in their lives. As David navigated this emotional minefield, he began to piece together a sinister puzzle. Clara had never been consistent with her work as an interior designer. Often struggling to secure clients, she had relied heavily on David's financial stability throughout their marriage. The thought crept into his mind. If she had conceived with someone else, how could she afford fertility treatments without him knowing? What if the expenses of such a journey loomed over their relationship like a dark cloud? These truths began stacking up, solidifying what David fearfully believed. Clara was living a lie, and their seemingly perfect life was beginning to crack at the seams. The burden of this knowledge grew heavier each day, forcing David to confront the painful reality of their marriage. Would he have the strength to navigate this complex labyrinth of betrayal, or would the shards of their hopes shatter what remained of their love? The answers he sought still lay ahead as he prepared himself for the battles that awaited him, both within and outside of their crumbling sanctuary. A week after receiving the shattering truth of his infertility diagnosis, David found himself seated around a dining table, surrounded by Clara's family, amidst a cheerful atmosphere marked by laughter and light-hearted conversations. The aroma of roasted chicken filled the air, and he tried desperately to lose himself in the company of those around him. However, looming over him was the unbearable weight of the truth he carried, a truth that threatened to devastate everything he had once held dear. As the conversation flowed from trivia about shared memories to teasing anecdotes about Clara, David sensed a shift in the air. Clara, known for her boisterous laughter and warm presence, suddenly stood up. With sparkling eyes that seemed to shimmer with excitement, she dramatically cleared her throat, capturing her family's attention. "I have an announcement," she proclaimed, her voice vibrant and full of life. Time seemed to slow down for David as the room quieted, each pair of eyes shifting toward Clara, the moment fueled by the anticipation that filled the room. His heart pounded in his chest, uncertainty clawing at the seams of his composure, eyelids fluttering in disbelief. He watched as she beamed with pride and excitement. "I am pregnant," she exclaimed, with a bright smile spreading across her face, framed by the warmth of her family's adoration. A wave of applause erupted as guests exchanged incredulous glances, celebrating the announcement as if it were the most natural occurrence. Internally, however, David froze. Waves of confusion and suspicion crashed down around him, rippling through his body. How could this be? How could Clara be pregnant when he had just learned he could not father a child? A cold fear gripped him, and he fought to maintain the facade of joy displayed on his wife's face. On the surface, he forced a smile, clapped along with the rest of the family, but inside, turmoil reigned. His emotions became a chaotic blend of disbelief, suspicion, and emerging dread. Did she conceive this child with someone else? As he feigned excitement, his mind raced, picking through the shards of doubt, analyzing every interaction, every word spoken in the moments leading up to this dinner. David felt the guilt of transitioning from nearly embracing the concept of fatherhood to instead grappling with an overwhelming sense of betrayal. He had relished the conversation about nursery designs, baby names, and the dreams they had begun to construct together. Yet none of that mattered anymore. The image of a family now appeared clouded with anguish, tainted by a haunting question: who was the real father? Understanding the necessity for clarity, David resolved to take action. He decided he needed definitive proof, something concrete enough to assuage his spiraling anxieties and suspicions. In secret, he made arrangements for a retest, this time at an unconnected clinic. Clarity, he told himself, was the only way to ease his mind, even as that very clarity threatened to unleash havoc into their lives. A few days passed and David endured the darkness of dread hanging over him. The retest was a simple yet agonizing procedure, and he knew that with each passing moment the darkness loomed larger. His heart thumped disquietingly as he entered the clinic, a sterile space, starkly contrasting the vibrant atmosphere of family dinners. All he could do was wait and hope that a small flicker of hope would arise from the depths of despair. Once again, time seemed to crawl when he received the results. A nurse handed him a slip of paper without any further comment. As his eyes flicked down the printed lines, reality began to congeal into a bitter truth. Confirmed sterility. His throat became dry, and his vision blurred as a cold wave of agony crashed over him. The truth wrapped tighter around him, squeezing the air from his lungs. The undeniable fact stung like an open wound: he could not father a child. All the dreams that had ignited within him at Clara's excited discussions about their future family now felt dashed to pieces. David's mind spun like a tornado, images of Clara and her dream future spiraling in tandem with the soul-crushing truth of his situation. As turmoil enveloped him, there was an eerie silence that followed the crushing diagnosis. The emotions invoked were overwhelming: anger, despair, betrayal, and suspicion coursing through him. Infidelity seemed the inevitable conclusion of a cruel twist of fate. How could Clara have become pregnant? And more importantly, with whom? The compounding revelations hit him like icy rain. Devastating realization after devastating realization, clouding whatever flicker of joy lingered in that moment. Every memory of Clara's laughter alongside David's ambition crashed down, forcing him into the shadows of suspicious thoughts. As he processed the horrifying reality that Clara might have betrayed him, the now vibrant picture of their future together shattered. While others rejoiced in her miraculous pregnancy, David spiraled deeper into heartbreak. Yet, amidst his despair, a resolve began to emerge. He needed to gather evidence, to piece this painful puzzle together. An unsettling calm washed over him as he navigated the complex labyrinth of emotions. He would not allow his life to be dictated by Clara's betrayal. Armed with suspicion and an insatiable need for the truth, David steeled himself for the path that lay ahead. This journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. In the weeks following Clara's shocking announcement at the family dinner, David felt as if he were watching a masterfully concocted play unfold, one where he was both a spectator and an involuntary actor. Clara, buoyed by the perceived miracle of her pregnancy, enveloped herself in a cocoon of revelry and anticipation, completely unaware that David now operated under a cloud of suspicion and dread. As she began to make plans for a lavish gender reveal party, meticulously curating every detail like a designer preparing for an exhibition, David felt his connection to her unraveling thread by thread. To the outside world, they seemed the epitome of happiness. Family and friends commented on Clara's radiant glow and increasing enthusiasm for what lay ahead. Yet for David, every smile she wore, every delighted scream at pre-planning conversations about nursery designs, felt eerily orchestrated, a farce that concealed an unthinkable betrayal. Each cheerful expression felt like a stab at his wounded heart. He could not escape the tight knot in his stomach. He felt the overwhelming weight of lies pressing down on him. At the gender reveal party, the atmosphere was electric. Family and friends gathered to rejoice, waiting with bated breath for the moment Clara would unveil whether they would be welcoming a daughter or son. As David watched Clara, he could barely participate in the excitement. Instead, he became increasingly aware of the glances shared between Clara and their younger neighbor, Liam. The room buzzed with laughter, but he found himself distracted by the energy shared between them. It was undeniably intimate, an invisible thread knitting their souls together, and it sent an unsettling chill down David's spine. Clara and Liam exchanged inside jokes that bordered on flirtation, and David felt a familiar, gnawing sense of jealousy creeping in, mixed with dread. As he observed their easy rapport, his heart sank further into a pit of despair. Was he merely the outsider in their shared world? He forced himself to push back the rapidly accumulating fears that screamed for validation. This was not the time for suspicions to take control. He reminded himself that he needed proof before drawing any conclusions about Clara's fidelity. Soon enough, David devised a plan. He needed access to Clara's personal laptop, the one she often claimed she was using for work on her client pitches and interior design mood boards. For him, the vividness of every hidden message became like a beacon, drawing him into a world where the truth operated just beyond his reach. He attempted to calm the chaos swirling in his mind, and with a deep breath he approached his task with the determination of a detective poised to break open a case. Finding the courage to act decisively, he waited for the night to descend. When Clara drifted off to sleep, the sounds of her gentle breaths wafting through the air. He rummaged through his memories and struck upon the forgotten password he had once helped her create. When the screen blinked to life, David's heart raced with a combination of dread and cautious hope. As he ventured into Clara's folders, he channeled an array of emotions: fear, determination, and an unyielding need for clarity. Then he found it, a hidden folder, one that seemed innocuous at first glance, yet named in a way that suggested irreverence to their shared life. His heart hammered as he clicked it open. What lay within was nothing short of revelatory. A series of passionate emails and shared documents revealed more than mere correspondence. They depicted a carefully laid out plan, meticulously detailing Clara's intentions. The words jumped off the screen at him like neon signs declaring treachery. Clara had envisioned a future with Liam, one paved with her aspirations, leveraging her pregnancy to secure a substantial divorce settlement and child support from David, ultimately leading to a life she deemed perfect. Shock washed over him, coloring his view of everything Clara had insisted was real. Every loving word spoken, every laugh shared over dreams of parenthood, dissipated, revealing an unsettling reality. David, the life partner she had vowed to share her journey with, was reduced to nothing more than an ATM in Clara's grand design. As David pieced the puzzle together, the insidious nature of betrayal seeped deeper into his bones. This was not merely disappointment. It was a calculated scheme, a weapon poised against his heart. The air around him felt thick with sorrow. The last vestiges of trust had evaporated. He flipped through the emails, feverishly photographing them, capturing every incriminating message as irrefutable proof, solidifying his resolve against an uncertain future. Realization struck him like thunder. Each moment he spent faking excitement at the gender reveal party was building towards an inevitable confrontation. For the first time he understood the true depths of Clara's manipulations. The entire narrative of their shared dreams morphed into a mirage, one David could no longer ignore. He was determined not to be a pawn in Clara's game any longer. Filled with a sense of newfound power that contrasted against his earlier despair, he prepared to navigate the next steps of this agonizing journey, knowing the time for confrontation loomed closer with every heartbeat. As David prepared to submerge himself deeper into the twisted narrative Clara had woven, he felt an invigorating surge of power. The game had shifted, and what once felt like a losing hand was transforming into an intricate plan of revenge, one that would affix Clara's deceit firmly under the spotlight. He would play along, allowing her to revel in the unearned joy of motherhood, while he meticulously prepared to dismantle the facade of their life together. In the months that followed the gender reveal party, David became the embodiment of the ideal husband. With a practiced smile plastered on his face, he attended every prenatal appointment. He stood dutifully by Clara's side as she excitedly perused baby gear, immersed himself in nursery designs, and engaged in conversations about the symbolism of various baby names. Each day spent in shared excitement was a reminder of her deceit, and yet he knew that this act of cooperation would serve a greater purpose. Behind the scenes, the struggle within David intensified. While he acted as the perfect partner, his heart bore the weight of heartbreak, betrayal, and simmering anger. He could hear Clara's laughter, a sound that was eerily sweet yet hollow, ringing through their home, each chuckle laced with anticipation of a future she had stolen from him, gnawed at his resolve. But he remained committed to his plan, a carefully orchestrated notion of justice more potent than mere confrontation. As Clara flourished in her dream of an ideal family, David consulted a divorce lawyer in secrecy. He intended to gather irrefutable proof, not only of her infidelity, but also to fortify himself legally. It was a delicate dance between betrayal and revenge on the surface, a devoted husband basking in the rich glow of impending fatherhood. Beneath the surface, a resolute warrior plotting a battlefield of words and evidence. Despite the personal anguish, David's resolve solidified with every prenatal class, every baby shower invitation, every excited conversation about Clara's motherhood. Each moment he faked happiness, he also secretly prepared himself for the inevitable exposure of the lies. He focused diligently on building a meticulous case, collecting all possible evidence of Clara's mendacity, along with a financial history highlighting her reckless spending without accountability. He spent weekends compiling notes, reflecting on the dissected memories of his marriage, and weighing the emotional cost of Clara's actions against the satisfaction of his own potential closure. In a sense, this revenge became a dual journey, not just one of exposing Clara, but also of rediscovering himself through the sorrowful specter of his losses. The strength he drew from this intricately layered manipulation was something he had not expected. It became an empowering practice within the gray areas of morality, allowing him to sit with the reality of his father's legacy. His father had always told him that one must do what is necessary to protect oneself, emphasizing that everyone must evade the traps laid out by others to secure their own futures. As he navigated through his days, shifts of laughter and jubilation spiraled through the house where once harmony thrived. Special circumstances dictated that Clara's motivations and righteous infatuation took precedence, every moment, every detail tailor-made to fit the social media paradigm she idolized. But David, once the passive observer of this pretense, now stepped into the role of the unseen puppeteer. Months blurred together in this surreal existence, where David had become both a husband, expecting a child, and a man nursing the scorn of betrayal. He understood that Clara's outward glee would eventually reach a zenith, one destined to come crashing down, not because of him, but because of her own choices. At the same time he prepared for fatherhood, a resolute awakening took hold within David. He felt determined to leave behind the binding cords of heartbreak and instead forge a path to liberation. Each interaction with Clara became a series of mental notes on timing, the right sentences to deliver during their everyday exchanges, crafting the perfect moment to expose her while keeping his own rising emotions in check. No one could have anticipated how the play would culminate. It remained an unfolding narrative, with Clara laboring under the false assumption that her charade was working perfectly. David braced himself, knowing that when the time came, he would not merely expose Clara, but dismantle the illusion she had delicately crafted around his life. With a fire ignited within him, David envisioned a moment when he would embody the truth. That moment was drawing closer as Clara's pregnancy approached its final stages. Tension pulled taut, reminding David that he was no longer the man overshadowed by aching despair. He was molded into a figure of control, ever ready to strike. And in that moment, he would unveil the deceit she had so brazenly abandoned, while tethering himself to the reality he deserved. This was not merely revenge. It was the reclamation of his own identity, a new chapter that loomed on the horizon where the truth would lay bare for all to see. David arrived at the hospital, his pulse steady despite the storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as he led Clara to the maternity ward. She was radiantly nervous, filled with anticipation and excitement about the arrival of their child. Small talk floated between them like a fragile thread, each word meticulously surrounded by the unspoken weight of David's hidden knowledge. "This is it, Clara," he said, forcing a smile, as he positioned himself beside her on the hospital bed. "Our new chapter is about to begin." The words tasted bittersweet on his tongue, a sharp contrast to the sweetness of her enthusiasm. David steered the conversation, overwhelming the lurking whispers of doubt with feigned excitement. "Have you thought about any names?" "I have," Clara responded brightly, her eyes sparkling as though they were bathing in idealism, an illusion David was determined to shatter. Clara discussed the names she adored, blissfully ignorant of the tumultuous waves crashing against the cliffs of their once shared dreams. A child was coming into the world, yet David felt alienated from the joy that should have been his. As Clara's contractions intensified, David's focus sharpened. Nurses fluttered around, preparing her for the delivery. The echoes of Clara's gasps were intermingled with a sense of impending resolution building within David. His plan, carefully cultivated over the last 9 months, was unfolding precisely according to his intentions. He knew this would be the moment everything changed. With each contraction, Clara drew strength from David's unwavering presence. Yet all he could think about was how he'd play his part as her partner while keeping the truth tightly intertwined with his heart. He had waited long enough, enduring the pretense, absorbing the deception. The moment had arrived to face Clara and the painful revelation that would unfold during this laborious task of bringing their child into the world. When the nurse confirmed it was time to begin pushing, the atmosphere charged with tension. David stood at her side, prepared for the chaos that was about to ensue. The room sounded like a symphony of desperation and determination. Clara's face twisted with effort, tears or sweat mingling on her brow, and in that split moment of vulnerability, David leaned down. Instead of offering her words of comfort, he whispered, "I think Liam would want to be here for this. Shall I call him?" Clara's eyes widened, shock rippling across her face. The revelation hit her like a tidal wave crashing against the shore, driving the breath from her lungs just as she pushed through another contraction. "What do you mean?" she gasped, grappling with the indignation that followed the glimmer of confusion. David reached into the pocket of his jacket, retrieving his phone with methodical precision. "Shall I call him?" he repeated, refusing to break the tense atmosphere. He then began to scroll and pulled up the results of his fertility test, the definitive diagnosis confirming his sterility. Holding the device aloft, he continued, "I have something you need to see." David displayed one by one the irrefutable evidence of Clara's betrayal, the confirmed sterility test, and the neatly assembled pile of emails and messages exchanged between Clara and Liam. Clara's face turned from shock to horror, an unbearable weight settling in her stomach more accurately than any forthcoming pain of childbirth. The betrayal was luminous at that moment, casting a shadow over the impending miracle of life. "I know everything, Clara," David stated, his tone unnervingly calm. "Your scheme, your lies, everything. This baby is not mine." Each word fell heavily, resonating in the sterile air of the delivery room as Clara grappled with the new reality burning in her chest. Her panic was visceral. She gasped for breath. The transformative experience of laboring for a child, combined with the weight of David Sipp's revelation, sent her spiraling past disbelief to a mental state that resembled utter collapse. "No," she pleaded through a strangled voice. "This is not—" David stepped back, watching her struggle with the inner tumult. He turned his attention to his phone again, finally dialing Liam Sepp's number. "Liam, Clara Sepp's in labor. The baby is almost here. You should come." The line went dead. David ended the call, turned off his phone, and silently exited the delivery room, leaving Clara grappling with the existential crumbling of her intricate existence. Practiced and prepared, David had meticulously crafted this moment, engineering a cathartic closure to all that had become so toxic in their lives. He walked out of that sterile environment and into the clean, brisk air of the outside world. The immediate weight of his emotions began to lift, and with every step towards his parked car, a sense of liberation grew within him. His packed bags awaited him at his vehicle, ready to set off for the secluded cabin, a symbol of his newfound freedom. The embrace of a new beginning shimmered on the horizon, beckoning him forth away from the shackles of betrayal and deceit. Thank you for joining me on this deeply emotional journey. If you related to David's struggle or found value in this story of betrayal and resilience, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Join the conversation in the comments. What did you think of David's choice for retribution? Would you have handled the situation differently? Your thoughts mean the world to me. Remember, every story has layers, and there is always more beneath the surface. Until next time, keep seeking the truth, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.